and a bunch of friends. We have just a stacked crew for you today. This is a big podcast.
Stacked.
This is a big podcast.
One of the bigger I've seen.
And we're all like social distanced. We're trying to stagger it out. Keep our space. It's a close to 6 feet. That's a small 6 feet, but we're going to call it good for today. But it's good to have you with us again. On this podcast, every week, we bring in different young adults from our church, from our community, and really just talk about all sorts of different topics. And today, we've got a really fun group of people here who just have really incredible, tight-knit relationship, friendship with each other. And this is only a portion of, the crew. I feel like this is
This is true.
a small portion of the crew. We didn't have enough space to really have all of them come in. We would have had to have Nolan on the drums probably if we did have everyone come in.
He'd
But
probably be more comfortable there than with a mic in his hand. So.
he
Never
might.
given a
He
mic.
might.
Yeah.
Nolan, dude, did you hear that? That would be like Nolan on the kick drum. He would just respond in like Morse code with the kick drum. But we're going to have a lot of fun today. Really, what we want to talk about is what it looks like to have and sustain godly relationships. And for those of you that might be tuning in who maybe don't have a church background or even the idea of like that phrase, godly relationship, you're like, what the heck does that even mean? Well, we just believe that everyone is called into community, and community looks like all sorts of different things, but really one of the things that we believe is most important, most critical to every person is that they have relationships and friendships that are centered around the person of Jesus. And one of the things that we really admire about your guys' friend group is that we feel like you guys are a great example of what that looks like. And just to kind of get us going, to kick us off, I just want to kind of know, like, how did you guys even become friends? Like, when did this start? Where did you guys meet? How far back does this go? Are we talking like kindergarten here, or like what are we talking here?
Okay.
Erica
all right.
loves telling this
I
story.
love telling
Oh,
this
give it to
story.
Erica then.
Yeah.
So a couple of us have known each other. So like Cheyenne, Nolan, and one of our other friends, Blake, kind of grew up together. Claire and I became best friends freshman year, and then the five of us. What? I do. I've told this story so many times.
It's true.
Actually, Cheyenne and I lived together when we were 2 years old.
yes. Been
Yes,
best friends
that is
ever
also
since.
true. And right before our senior year, I think, kind of both groups kind of just came together because we all had one class together in high school, and we were super involved in
What
that
class was this?
It was yearbook.
I
and
was
so
not in the class.
Holla.
he was
Neither
not.
was I.
He was in running start, but
I was
but
forgotten
Claire,
about in high school.
me, Cheyenne, and Blake were all in that class, and we were super involved, and we went on trips with that class together. Basically, we had like one hangout day that was really significant to us, that we all did Bible study together, and we kind of realized we all wanted to be really good friends because we all had similar morals in like Christian faith. And then about a year and a half, 2 years later, this guy came along, and him and Claire met.
He just kind of
at
like
a camp.
walked up and was like, "Hey, look at that guy."
We laid eyes on him, and we decided that he was
He belonged.
abducted.
Wow,
He
He
did.
belonged.
accepted.
Yeah, they met at a camp, and then he started working at a coffee shop that I used to work at, and so we all just started hanging out with him. And
She has got it down.
yes, and there are lots of other people in the crew that have just kind of made
Wiggled their way
Wiggled
in.
their way
I'm just kidding. No.
Is there any of you like have any issues with that story? Or was that pretty good? Was that pretty good?
I'd say it's pretty solid.
It's solid.
She really whipped that one
I mean,
out.
yeah.
Like
I
it
know,
sounded.
that's what
It
She's
sounded
said
really.
this so many times.
She
before.
It's
says
my
it
favorite
every
story.
morning in the mirror.
She practices.
So, yeah.
She's been waiting for this podcast.
I have,
to
yeah,
recite that.
since the day we all started hanging
I
out.
feel like being friends or like a friend group in high school, I mean, personally, and I'm sure many other people can relate, it's hard to maintain that close-knit group after high school. And like you might remain close with a few, but it's very uncommon to have it be the whole group. So how did you guys maintain that? Because none of you are in high school anymore, just for those of you that don't know them. And so since high school, how have you been able to maintain this such close friend group?
So I would say the main way that we've been able to maintain it is by the fact that literally not one of us went to a 4-year university. Every single one of us minus.
No, Claire and I went to a 4-year, but we did online.
Pretty
at
much
home.
everybody
like,
stayed at home.
Okay, I mean, like, none of us moved away, is what I'm saying. Literally every single one of us, except for one of us who went to South Africa for 6 months.
I did enough traveling for everybody to
yeah.
not have to like move.
Like Cheyenne moved for 6
sacrificed.
months and then came back, but literally other than that, like we all stayed home. So I actually think it probably would have been very different had we had all gone to college, like
Just
away.
kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, but it worked out to where we all were home, so we were able to maintain the friendship really well.
Totally. What I'd be interested to hear from all of you on this. What's like your favorite? You can either say like your favorite thing that you do together or your favorite memory. I'll leave it open ended for you.
It's fun. Yeah, let's go down the line.
Give
One
us
of-
some good stories.
Oh, I've got a good one. Claire's gonna love this story. A few of us went on a road trip to Utah, and it was fantastic.
you about it.
It
That's where I
was a
got the shirt.
really fantastic road trip. It truly was. Up until the last, I want to say, 4 hours, we were almost home. La Grande, Oregon, beautiful place.
I have literally never heard of La Grande, Oregon. in my
Don't
life.
Neither had
no.
we.
You really don't need to
It's
look
for the
that.
better.
It's for the better that you don't experience La Grande, Oregon. Yes, but Utah was amazing. We road tripped. How long was that? 13 hours or
Yeah.
something? Yeah, it was us three and Claire, Nolan,
Just
myself, and
straight?
Blake.
You didn't even stop?
Oh, we did a little.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did. But
Yeah.
we had a great time in Utah.
Okay.
But returning home, this girl, Claire Dayton, Ford Fiesta, poops its pants. It is no longer running.
Oh, I thought you meant Claire pooped her pants. I was like, whoa, we just outed
No,
her.
my
for
car-
Ford
that.
Fiesta,
Good
her
story.
car, her
The
car.
trip was great
in
until
other-
4 hours until we were home.
And, okay.
Claire just couldn't make it.
In other words, Claire's car broke down. And yeah, tow truck experience. Multiple people were involved in coming to
I
rescue
do remember
us.
that actually.
The
Yeah.
one time I've been at a Denny's was at 1:15 a.m. in La Grande, Oregon. It's the only time.
I
That's the only
remember-
Denny's experience I
What did you
had.
order? What did you order?
Oh, dude.
Grand Slam.
Grand Slam,
Yes.
baby.
I
called
remember
them right.
I was on a different trip, which is why I couldn't come on this trip. I remember getting a text at like 1 a.m. of just please pray.
Yeah.
They were
You literally
stranded
think
on
your
the
kids
side
are
of the
like your,
road.
your kids, your friends are like dead.
Yeah, well, yeah. And then I tracked them, and
Those
they
are the
were
worst
just in
texts.
some
They're Denny's.
random.
They were at
at
Denny's.
Denny's
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Like anytime someone's at Denny's at that hour, it's like here's a problem. It's
There
not.
has to
it's
be an
like-
issue.
It's not
Something's
normal.
wrong.
Actually, when we were there was a large prom group at Denny's at 1 in the morning.
course.
So that was our company. Besides, it was just us. But yeah. Anyways, it was like unfortunate circumstances, but it was super duper fun. It was really fun.
Any other memories?
Well, yeah, I'll just go. Okay.
If you don't say it, I'm gonna.
Well, I'm gonna say it. It's funny you're talking about that because we went on. Well, I didn't go on the first trip, but we went on a return trip to Salt Lake City, which didn't go wrong in any way. And I was on that trip, and that trip
I
was
was
awesome.
also on that trip.
Did
I
you
was also
pass
on that
through
trip.
La Grande, Oregon?
No, we flew.
We
We
learned,
learned our
over.
lesson.
Yeah, we decided to fly this time. That's probably my favorite memory with the group. Yeah, honestly, I haven't been around that long, so.
I would say mine is probably any trip that we go on. We go on lots of trips. It's like we look forward to every summertime because we have so many trips planned. So one of my favorite was when we went to Portland last year. We love just going to random places and getting Airbnbs and trying new food and stuff. Yeah. We just
lots
go on
of day
lots
trips.
trips. Lots of day trips. To Vancouver, to, just a lot of different places.
Well, in Everett, there's this Mexican restaurant called Memos.
That's not where I was going.
Oh,
That's where-
not memos.
Yes.
Are you
100%.
serious?
Memos.
It is
A
a
Memos
24 hour.
at,
24 hours.
Like 10:30 at night, you go through the drive-through in reverse, and it's just like a great
Forgot about that.
experience for everybody involved.
They're not really phased by
So
that
we
at
like,
all.
so we like pull up to the drive. It's like this 24-hour Mexican restaurant drive-through, and then like you just go through the drive-through in reverse. Like you don't go through the normal way. You like
else
reposition
can we
yourself.
explain
and
Wait,
then
this
go
is
on
like
going in
backwards.
reverse.
And then it's like that you get up to the window, and then they're like,
Startled.
and then you
And
just
sometimes
can't,
there's
like,
a car behind
there's
you
the
too
cars
that
behind,
pulls
like,
up and
they-
love it.
you're face to
everybody's-
face
oh, yeah.
with them.
And then you get a breakfast burrito at like 10:30 at night, and everybody's in the car. It's great. That's my favorite memory.
Wait, can I just clarify?
Yeah.
So you like You reverse in from the way that you go out, or you reverse in
No,
from
no.
the
So you
start?
like
Like,
go.
it goes
so
around
you
the whole
like go-
building.
Yeah.
So you
you
go
turn
in,
around
like,
in
the
the
normal
normal direction.
Ah.
But like the person in the passenger seat is ordering
I
the
see.
food,
I
and
see.
the person in the passenger
It's
seat.
very
And then
confusing.
you get the food, and then you have to, then you back out of the
Someone pulls in behind you,
back
or in
out of
front
the
you, they, like,
drive-thru.
turn their lights off so they're not blinding you. It's awesome. It's really
You
great.
guys have done this so many times at
So many
Memos that
times,
now
dude.
they know who you are and
They're
they're
not
unfazed.
phased.
Yeah. We're
They're
ready. Yeah.
extremely
Now they
unfazed.
just roll through backwards like, oh, hey.
Hey.
Oh,
Hey,
it's
Nolan.
good to see you guys.
Hey, how are you? Oh
My
God.
favorite memory.
Okay,
before.
for a second, I thought that their drive-through was just set up backwards.
No.
I was like,
No.
what
It's not.
kind of establishment is this? It's
I wouldn't be
ridiculous.
I would say my favorite memory, I think Cheyenne sparked a memory in me, is when, just for those of you who don't know, the car situation, I actually got my car stuck in La Grande, Oregon. So we had to drive home. Long story short, we basically had to go back 3 weeks later to get my car after it was stuck there. And one of my favorite memories with our group is after that whole excursion of having my car stuck in Oregon, on our way down 3 weeks later to get my car, we get a flat tire and have to get a new car, an entire new car on our way to get my Ford Fiesta because we were driving a rental car, my dad's rental car, so we had to get a new rental car. So that was pretty fun. Wasn't fun in the moment, but, brings back some good laughs.
It's
and
still
I
going
was
strong.
laughing the whole time.
yeah, I was not laughing. So, yeah.
And then Claire never wanted to drive a car again.
Literally never. I still have that car. Trying to sell it, though. So,
Hey, if you're in the market for a car, what year is it?
2014.
2014
76,000 miles.
Ford Fiesta.
Bright red.
It's really loves to spend time in La Grande, Oregon. So if you're from La Grande, it loves that place. Watching the Well, hey, one of the things that as Rachel and I were just talking, getting ready for this this podcast, is one of the things we really admire about your guys' friend group, and we've known you guys for years now, since high school, is that oftentimes with friend groups, and I know that I've even experienced this, is that there can be a real tendency to become exclusive. Like there's this tendency where we become such tight-knit friends with people that it becomes almost like that old phrase, us four no more, and unintentionally or intentionally, walls just seem to go up, and it's hard to let other people come in. Other people, from the maybe outside your friend group, feel uncomfortable being around you. And to be really just honest, I've never ever felt that or heard that from your guys' friend group. Other people interacting with you guys, I've just never heard that before, and that's just really rare. Like it's just not common to see that kind of a thing, whether in church or out of church, to have that kind of inclusive, just kind of attitude towards having people come and hang out with you and be a part of your guys' life and your friend group. So one of the things I wanted to know is that something that you guys had talked about? Is that something that just kind of came natural? Is it something that you guys have talked about before, as far as like letting people in and being a part of that type of community? What has that kind of been like for you guys, or what was really made with all that?
We definitely have had the conversation before of like one of us like wanting to have a chill night and someone is asking if someone else can come, and there have been a couple times where we've had to like have that mental check of like, we do not want to be exclusive, but at the same time, we all just really love people. And so I think it does come naturally to us individually to like kind of invite everyone else in. And I guess it also just comes with like being secure in each other's friendships as well. And we have we started like about a year ago doing Bible study together every Monday night. And one of my favorite things about the Bible study now is that kind of anyone can come. We have like a ton of people that we don't see as like outsiders come. They like are now a part of like the Bible study, and if they like come once or more than once, like
Absolutely. Yeah, and something that just affirmed the friend group being like a very open circle was that in the beginning, the Bible study used to be a very not exclusive, but a smaller thing for sure. We were really vulnerable with one another and let each other in, and we had built that trust already. And then we had people reach out to us and say, "Hey, I know you guys do this Monday night Bible study. Like, can we come?" Or even us, we're like having a couple of us had a longing to invite somebody. And we did have to have that conversation at first that was like, hey, I know this is a vulnerable space for a lot of us. Can we invite people in? And can we like be able to share our hearts still? And we did do that one day, and it kind of just happened. We're like, okay, we're gonna just finally just say like yes, and let's invite however many people this week. For some reason, this week was a week where like a lot of people either invited somebody already, or like people had wanted to come, or
There were
something
like
that.
four people that have
Yeah.
never been there coming.
Yeah, it was just one of those weeks. And then I know that I felt like I was just really, really struck by, like, it was almost like God was talking to me when somebody had said, like, oh, yeah, an answer to my prayer is your guys' small group. And I was like, wow, that is like all you could ask and more. Like he said, like, I have been praying for a group like this, and I'm here now. And we're like, wow.
We all just kind of looked at each other and we were like, okay, like,
This makes
that
sense.
was God.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love that you mentioned, Kirsten, is
Person?
That's my sister.
Kirsten. That's Erica's sister, by the way, Kirsten.
Yikes.
Erica, one of the things I love that you just mentioned is like a trust within each other, or I can't remember how you phrased it.
Security.
Security, yeah, and I think that's really interesting that you say that, because there is kind of this unspoken hesitancy that when somebody new comes into your life, it's going to affect the other relationships that you have. And what a really like freeing thing to be able to just feel like you can let that go because you're so confident in the other people that are in your life. That says a lot about your guys' friendships with each other, and the trust that you guys have with each other, that even though, you know, opening up the door to somebody coming in, you know that changes things, because it does, but it doesn't have to change your personal relationships with each other, your personal connections with each other.
We also had like the talk with that of like, is anyone going to withhold and not be vulnerable if there are more people here? And then we all like talked about how like the church and God calls us to be like vulnerable with others. I don't want to, obviously I have trust more with people than I do with strangers, but like if I can be vulnerable, which we were that night, it allowed them to feel the comfortability, and then they were able to share like their answered prayer and give us real prayer requests, and then our relationship with them grew to where I consider them like very close friends of mine now too.
Yeah.
That's huge. I think there's something to say about like mentality of a group like this, which I've just found to be like really, really rare. And it's like you were saying, kind of to the idea of like keeping friendships past high school, when like most of the time you're probably just looking for people to shoot the breeze with, like, you know, you're not really looking for something deep. And as the person that's like stumbled into this, like literally like less than a year, like easily, and like, yeah, like there's the whole side of it that's just like, yeah, shooting the breeze stuff, like they make references to high school all the time that I don't understand, and like that's just part of my job, is like to let those slide.
Part of his job.
Yeah, that's
We
my
hired
job.
him for that role.
There is a contract you must sign.
Right, the initiation process. No, but I think like the mentality of, and we talk about it all the time, like the mentality of less of like a friend group and more just like a tight-knit family of like, it's like you were saying, like, I don't know, I think about it all the time of like, when I look back on the last year, I couldn't, like, I say I stumbled in because I, in like legitimately no way pursued this group, so to speak. Like it literally just happened very naturally, and like I just think of it a lot like family in that respect of like, no matter what you do, like you're always gonna be related to your family, you know? And so like there's that safety there, and it's kind of like that, like you said, like we don't have question of like, oh no, if we bring more people in, are they gonna like, yeah, like are we gonna lose the closeness of these people? Because it's less than just like a group of people hanging out, like it's just deeper than that.
That's awesome. I would love to hear just like a final thing from all of you about what do you think is the most important part of a godly friendship? Because you've mentioned how your relationships with each other are deeper and that you do things involving the Lord in your friendships. So just from each of you, what is the most important thing about a godly friendship to you?
I was actually thinking about this. I think there's two things that I was thinking about. Is the first is like everybody's like different, no matter how close we are. Like all of us, our personalities, and like this is same with any group of people, right? Everybody's gonna have a different personality. Like there will be things that maybe the whole group thinks is funny that offends one person, and that like kind of sucks because it can frustrate that person or whatever. And then like I don't know. I think it's just as I've grown older and like spent more time with these people, I think like understanding how to like work with that and build the friendship around like each person being like different and accepting that and not like letting the differences and like I think Erica, you mentioned it, like being secure, like there might be times where two people are like really close and like not letting that like feel like an exclusive thing or like two people are starting to hang out more or like like Brandon and I work together and we live together. Like I can imagine how like maybe some of the other guys that we hang out with are like, dude, that that would be kind of cool to like, you know, hang out whatever. But like, no, it's just understanding those differences and being able to like roll with them is huge. I think that's kind of the biggest thing that I've learned.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I think another huge aspect of godly friendship is when somebody can come to you and challenge you a little bit. Like I've definitely been in a position before where Claire and Erica have both come to me, maybe after talking with one another about it, but they have both come to me and said like, hey, there's like, we've got this on our mind and we're kind of unsure about how to tell you about it, but we're like approaching you with a lot of love and we're trying to speak kindly to you and pour into you, not attack you, but this is something that we're thinking maybe needs to change, or maybe this is something that you can think about a little bit more, or maybe God has laid a word on their heart. It might be hard for me to hear, but they're more than willing to have that conversation with me. And so, yeah, that honesty between people allows room for challenge, for sure.
Yeah, I think having those hard conversations is really what bonds people. Like, I know I've probably had a hard conversation with every single person in our group. And when we also, something I like to live by a lot, which Pastor Brandon has spoke on a ton of times, is like living unoffendable lives. And so if I can remove myself from the situation and see the other person's motive of like, okay, you're not sitting me down like for any selfish ambition of your own, but purely to help me grow closer to Jesus and like tear down the walls in my other relationships. So I think it's like trust is like a huge thing, trust and honesty and just that communication of being able to have those hard talks and receive it and apply it.
Yeah. Didn't know if you were gonna go. Yeah, I hugely agree. I think that's kind of like exactly what I was thinking, or at least like I think the root of all that is like kind of like what Erica was saying. Like we're all very secure in our own relationships and like our relationship with Jesus, but also like specifically in the confines of like a group, a friend group. Like we're very secure in our own relationships. Like Nolan was saying, like despite our differences, like even if that one person is offended, like we all know at the end of the day, like we're still gonna be friends, and like even if we have those tough conversations, like at the end of the day, we're still gonna be friends. It's like having that. Like I'm just the kind of person. Like I know a lot of people. I've had a lot of changing relationships, and I'm sure like a lot of people do. Like relationships come and go, but I'm really like anchored by the ones that stick around, and that's like a very important part of those long-term relationships for me is like that security in relationship. That like even though, yeah, like you can kind of grow distant or like life changes in situation, but like we always will have that like rooted, and it literally is rooted in our love of Jesus. Like that's the one thing, and at the end of the day, that like ties us together.
Which also helps us all like forgive each other too when we mess up.
Yeah. I would say, I don't know why, but when you asked that, the first word that came to my mind was loyalty. And I feel like, I mean, this is a huge part of any friendship, but like being loyal, I feel like is such a thing that people like undermine all the time, or like don't even think about like the importance of loyalty in a friendship. And I feel like each person in the group has proven to me like repeatedly that they will stand by my side through thick and thin, even if that looks like a little messy, or even if that's kind of uncomfortable for them, and vice versa, that I'll do the same for them. And I think that's especially important in godly relationships, because like you said, when you bring that loyalty to the table, you're also bringing like, hey, I know that this situation might be like messy and hard, but like I'm gonna stand by you through this, and I'm bringing Jesus into it too. So like even when I am feeling like, okay, I don't have any Jesus right now, like I'm so empty, like people are coming to me with like their cup full and are being like, I'm loyal right now, like I'm standing by your side and my cup is full for you. Like when you can't hold your own arms up, like I'll hold your arms up for you. So yeah, I think that's a huge part of friendships, and that's like something that I've really valued in this group.
That's really good. Well, thank you guys, honestly, for sharing and being so vulnerable. A few of the things that I'm picking up from you guys just in the short amount of time that we talked is that, creating and sustaining friendships, relationships of any kind, and godly relationships as well, it takes work. It's not something that you can just stumble into and then expect to just have continue to flourish and grow. The goal is not just that we create friendships that survive. The goal is to create friendships that thrive. And what you guys have even just said in the short amount of time that we've talked about, what you like to do together, memories that you have. We've talked about things like being vulnerable in Bible studies and opening it up and having trust and spending intentional time together, traveling and having fun and doing just weird things like going backwards through a drive-through, which I'm gonna have to try at some point now, I guess.
Yes, you will.
Got to try.
But it reminds me that those who choose that this is what they desire can't just ask for it; they have to work towards it. And I would just say that if you're watching this podcast today and maybe you're in a season of life where you're just hungry for more relationships like that, first of all, I want you to know that the church is a great place to find relationships and friendships. And a lot of what we just talked about today is just this reality that when we don't have enough to give each other, we rejoice in the fact that God gives us some things that we need that we don't always feel like we have at our dispense. We don't always have the grace or the mercy or the love or forgiveness to give initially, but when that's the root of who we are and the root of our friendship, we can go to that root to give. And I would just say that if you're seeking that kind of relationship, to be reminded that you can start having those kinds of relationships today when you decide that this is what you want for yourself. And it's going to take work. It's going to take energy. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take vulnerability, like all these things we talked about. But I know that you guys would echo this as well. As Rachel, you have some great godly friends, and as I do too. It's worth it. Having community that you can trust and lean on and live life with is one of the most invaluable things that we could possibly ask for. And so we want to encourage you with that today. We want to encourage you to step into just this intentionality when it comes to creating godly friendships, to seek that out and to invest in that with your life. And this has been another episode of our Venture YA podcast. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us today. And
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
make
you.
sure to continue to stay posted
Thank
for
you.
more podcasts just like this, for more young adult content. We love you guys, and we'll see you next week.